So you want to learn how to skate kinked rails? Well, you're in the right place. Over the last few years, I've skated quite a few kinked rails, and I thought it would be a good idea to make a quick video sharing my thoughts on some of my successes and failures, and so that you can apply some of that knowledge and do your very first kinked rail. I'm out here at a rail that I have not skated yet, but it's a beautiful example of a kinked rail that I'm going to use some of the tips that I share with you today to see if I can get her done. Before we really get into skating kinked rails, this video is sort of assuming that you already know how to skate normal handrails without a kink. Kinks just add complexity and a little bit of dynamic stuff into doing handrails. So before this, you should know how to skate handrails in general. The first thing you want to do when you're finding a kinked rail that you want to do for the very first time is to find a kinked rail you want to do for the very first time. Ideally one, at least in my opinion, this is all my opinion by the way, so also if you get hurt trying a kinked rail, don't sue me, bro. But just like you would select a suitable handrail to do for your very first one, you want to just take a look and see what you got going on. Take a look at the run up, right? Is it a nice smooth run up? Take a look at the height of the rail. Is it very high? Is it low? Grass on the other side, I prefer. Obviously too, you don't want it to be like crazy steep either. Like this is actually a pretty prime example of a really nice kinked rail that I don't know, I would want to do for my very first one, I would think anyway. As far as what trick to do or what the best trick to do down a kinked rail is, to me, it's the trick you're most comfortable with, whether it's a solo grind, whether it's a frontside, royale, whatever it is. I would stick to the tricks that you're most comfortable with, at least at first. I typically prefer top soles because I just feel a lot more locked in through the kink, but you may have better success. I used to just spam front royales down every kinked rail I could find, so my sort of tastes have changed over the years, but stick to the trick that you're most comfortable with, at least at first. And if you're like Chris Farmer, your safety trick is a negative acid down kinked rails. Just like you would do with a normal handrail, a lot of this applies to normal handrails too, so I'm just gonna reference it. But jump on the rail initially, you know, is what I like to do and a lot of my friends like to do, is jump on the rail initially with the intention of just coming off on the other side. And one big thing I always stress when skating handrails is always have your hands ready, that if something gets squirrely, just grab onto the rail and save yourself, just like handrails were originally designed for. But to me, it's extra important on kinked rails is because once you come down and hit this kink, weird stuff can start happening, and you really, really want to have that hand primed and ready. That if once you hit these kinks, something weird happens, you can save yourself by grabbing the rail. So as you're doing these first few jump-ons, you're just starting to build your sight picture of what the rail looks like as you're approaching the kink. Getting a feel for this, how far you need to lean forward, and you are getting a feel for how fast the rail slides too. So jump on it again with the intention of not doing the rail necessarily, locking on, starting to build some comfort and getting to know the rail, and then progress to actually starting to get down to the first little kink and hit the kink again with this sort of mindset. And people may disagree with this, and that's cool, but I always advocate crawl, walk, run, like baby steps. Just sort of feel it out, especially if it's your first one. Don't jump on it with the intention of just doing it first try. Go down to the kink, hit that first kink, pop off. Again, grab the rail, save yourself, just so you can start getting that sight picture and get more comfortable with how it's gonna look. One big mistake that I've seen a lot and I've done a lot is as you're going down the rail, you have that nice, aggressive, really committed leaning into the rail, nice and lean forward. But once you hit that kink, a lot of people start to lean backwards and you aren't ready or prepared to lean back down that next kink. So really, as you're going through the kink, you want to really focus on leaning forward aggressively and not letting that little flat part kind of send you backwards. You almost, in a way, to me, you want to sort of ignore it in that respect. You almost want to lean a little bit far forward as you're going through the kink so that you're set up for success on the way back down. And when you watch guys like Chris Farmer or Tree Rudolph, as they're going through the kinks, they're basically turning their whole body into a shock absorber. And while I don't expect you to have quite that much body control, at least not yet, that's something to kind of aspire to absorb the shock. You almost want to think as you're going through the kink to think about your legs really not turning into jello quite, but loosening them up, relax a little bit, allow your knees and hips to sort of absorb the kink as you're continuing to lean forward and getting ready to go down that next slant. I'm really hesitant to wax kinked rails because a lot of times, especially if it's a rail like this that I don't know if it's ever been skated, I don't see any marks anyway, but I'm really hesitant to wax kinked rails because for me, speed is not your friend with kinked rails. I generally creep up to them because the slower you go through the kink, to me, the better able you are to kind of negotiate and sort of absorb that kind of dynamic sort of experience through the kink. My recommendation, don't wax the rail unless you absolutely have to, which I actually had to just the other day in Tallahassee because it was crazy sticky. But jump on the rail, get a feel for it, and then if you absolutely need to wax it, then go ahead and do that. But a lot of times when you're skating these rails, and you already know this because you've already skated rails, is that sometimes as you skate them more, they start to break in even without wax. And so if they start to break in and you wax it, and those two things start to make it slide really fast, that kink is just gonna buck you right off. And probably the biggest bit of advice that I would give you for your first kink rail, honestly, is that if you jump on the rail and you're sliding down it, and your balance, and you just don't have that warm, fuzzy feeling like everything's going well, don't be afraid to just bail off the rail, grab it, walk back up and try again. A lot of times, you know, I've been guilty of it plenty of times where you're really fighting for it, when you know it doesn't feel right, when you know your balance isn't perfect, and it just doesn't have that good feeling, and try to fight through the kink. The kinks can buck you off and stuff can get super weird super fast. And it should also kind of go without saying that you probably should practice if you can on a kinked P rail, a practice rail, or even like a kinked P box, something like that, before you actually try a kinked handrail. But do what you're gonna do. So I'm gonna roll around a little bit. I wanna get a back royale and a topsoul on this thing. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get booted out before that or not, but we're gonna try. Some cars that weren't here earlier just parked over there, so it's not looking likely, but we'll take a look at the back roy. I got my wax handy if I need to use it, which maybe I will, maybe I won't, but I don't anticipate getting very many tries. Almost there. Definitely need to lean in towards the steps just a bit more. And it's a little bit muddy down there, so watch out. Whew, that landing came up quick. Yeah, no wax and this rail slides pretty darn good. So haven't gotten the boot yet, so I want to get the topsoul and then we'll get out of here. Not quite as chill as I was sort of anticipating, but super fun. Yeah, great rail. So I hope some of these tips help you out on your journey to your first kink trail. Yeah, just remember sometimes they slide faster than they look. Be careful with the wax for sure. So anyway, rollerbladers, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you're not already. And let me know what tips I missed down in the comments below. Let me know when your first kink trail was. I'll see you on the next video. Take care.